I want to bring in former RNC Chair Michael Steele and National Affairs Correspondent for The Nation, Joan Walsh. Welcome back to both of you. Happy holidays if you had a good week. Michael, I begin with that point that sounds straightforward. The tactics and the ethics are different. McCarthy gets criticized and bumped for many different reasons. But in the past, he's found his way back. What do you see now with a even more sort of calcified, angry backbone of MAGA loyalists in this vote?
Found his way back to what? He's still not Speaker of the House. I mean, at the end of the day, look, majority leader is nice. Rather, minority leader is nice. But the reality for Kevin has been for some time now that he wants to be Speaker of the House. And there's a reason why. It's not just conservative members. I mean, a lot of people like to put the onus on the Tea Party at the time and now the Freedom Caucus, but it's not just them. There are other members as well. Kevin was good for raising money, but they don't see him necessarily as their leader. They don't see him as someone who can effectively engage against a crafty, wily Democratic leadership, such as it was under Nancy Pelosi. Now, the dynamics may change since Nancy will no longer be Speaker, but be careful that figure you see in the dark of night. It could be just as scary in the leadership that you see emerging among the Democrats now to follow Nancy. And they are as well
seasoned. Let me push you on how that's going to work and then bring Joan in. You may remember back just post 9/11, there was a lot of talk of why do they hate us? What do they want abroad? I know that some of the Republican leaders that used to be in a simpler time, Michael, maybe you didn't agree with them on everyone, but they used to be your contemporaries, people you could reason with. And those elite Republicans used to say, why do they hate us? What do they want? Whether it's Tea Party, MAGA, or this more extreme QAnon faction, what do they want from Kevin McCarthy other than to disrupt his political life? Michael.
I don't think it's so much what they want from Kevin McCarthy at this stage. It's what they wanted from the party, going back to when I became chairman in 2009. People need to contextualize and understand the Tea Party process began long before 2009. It reaches back to when Newt Gingrich came to the Congress in the late 1980s and began to foment a rebellion, if you will, to use that term, against the structure that had been put in place under 40 years of Democrat control of the House between 1954 and 1994. So in the late 80s, that pressure began to build up in a way that manifests itself very differently today, but led to the takeover of the House in 94. So this has been a long-serving battle among a lot of Republicans who felt that the establishment, the order of things, the party leadership, the RNC, the senatorial committee, the congressional committees never took into account how frustrated the rank and file were about big government spending under Bush, the lack of adherence to the social norms as they saw them at the time. So there is that buildup that manifests ultimately in 2009 and is now metastasized into this thing of white nationalism, grievance, racism, et cetera.
Yeah. Joan?
Well, my friend Michael and I used to have some arguments about this stuff back in 2009, 2010, and beyond. But I think what really turned up in 2009 in a whole different way, it was there for a long time, Ari, is the racism. I mean, I think we can talk about, okay, the Tea Party was really against George Bush's big spending, et cetera, the deficits, et cetera, but it really wasn't. I mean, it cohered as a movement that was freaked out about the election of our first black president. And that's what we're still living with. And it's metastasized. It's gotten worse. It's gotten uglier. It's spread to more of us. It's not now limited to black people, although I would say it's the worst regarding black people, but it's lesbians, LGBT people, it's women, it's Latinos, it's everybody who's not a white man in general, and some white women are on board too. So I don't think you can leave that out. You seem to be giving Kevin McCarthy more credit than I would, and maybe it's suggesting that he's, smart or something. I mean, I just say poor dumb Kevin, because I don't think he's smart, and I don't think he's going to be very happy. This is what he wants. He wants it.
I'll give you my
miserable.
I'll give you my response, and then you can respond to my response, Joan.
Okay.
I don't know as a journalist if I can say what his exact intellect is or his IQ or something of that nature. I'm referring to the fact that while he is criticized for many reasons I mentioned, tactically, this is a challenging thing to try to deal with today's House Republican caucus. We see why. And he has so far stayed astride of it. And he seems to still be on track to get the speakership, although we showed what those numbers are. So that's how I would put it, Joan, but I'll let you have the final word in the segment.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's counted votes, and back in 2015 he counted votes and he knew he didn't have them. I think he's going to hang on as long as he can, but I don't know if he has them. I mean, I want to point out he did one semi-courageous thing during the campaign when he thought I think they were going to win by a lot. He suggested maybe impeaching Joe Biden wasn't a good idea, and he got slaughtered for that. So he's never said it again. He's moved on to impeaching Mayorkas. He will come back to impeaching Biden if he has to. I think he's going to sell out to, this MAGA caucus, and I don't know that it will get him enough votes. I won't bet against him, but I don't know you can say it will get him enough votes.
Yeah, and that's why it's interesting, because the consequences are major, particularly if they get him out and get someone who's even more QAnon or whatever you want to call it these days. I don't think saying more conservative is even accurate on some of these matters.
Not saying.
So let me do this. Joan, thank you. Happy holidays. If there's leftover turkey, save some for me. Michael stays. And let me tell folks what's coming.